Hey viewers, I've had tons of Frost footage sitting on my hard drive for months, and I need to get rid of it, so it's time I made a review of this excellent total conversion mod. Yeah, I'm giving it away in the first 15 seconds. Frost is incredible. It's absolutely worth a playthrough if you've become too familiar with Fallout 4's world and want a completely fresh spin on it. Sadly, I only got to play Frost for about 30 hours. I really wish I had more time, but over the past week my graphics card drivers have been giving me problems, and troubleshooting those issues took many hours away from me. Right now I'm hoping I've managed to resolve them permanently. It serves me right for wanting to upgrade to the new Nvidia app. And sorry in advance about my footage being a complete mess. Some of it was taken back when I was still using gore censorship mods, and I was constantly playing around with Fall UI's HUD options and screwing with the graphics settings, so try to forgive that. Anyways, 30 hours was definitely long enough to understand Frost mechanically, but I won't be able to speak much about its narrative and world-building elements because I didn't encounter many. I was mainly focused on surviving. I think I missed most lore notes or didn't even reach their locations. As far as I can tell, Frost is a completely unvoiced mod. If there is any new dialogue that hasn't been recycled from vanilla, I haven't found it. And there are no quests in the expected sense of having an entry in your Pip-Boy that tells you where to go and what to do. Whatever story there is told through written notes and terminal records. Nearly every human you'll encounter is out to kill you, and the few people who don't attack on sight have very limited conversation options. The opportunity to trade is a rare luxury, and medical services are even rarer. Ultimately, you're on your own against the world 99% of the time. Before discussing Frost's mechanics, I'll talk about the install process. It's pretty simple, just follow the below zero guide to a T. I did that myself and had no problems. I only installed a basic load order with no optional add-ons except for the campsite mod. That was kind of a mistake. I would highly recommend grabbing at least a few optional mods, especially a weather mod. Frost's built-in weather is very bad. I'll be generous and say it's at least good for gameplay, but in terms of looks, it's absolutely horrible. The purpose of Frost's weather seems to be heavily limiting visibility to make ranged combat less powerful, but this is done by adding hideous bands of fog to the distance. This is a vanilla problem too, but some weathers make power lines and tree branches sway with such intense force they'd surely break off in real life. I've seen a lot of people have this graphical issue. I wonder if it's caused by the frame rate being too high. It never actually snows in Frost, it just gets really foggy. Often there are radiation storms, which are a real pain in the ass to deal with, especially in the early game. If you're lucky, you can sneak into a nearby interior and wait out the storm. If you're unlucky, you'll be soaking up hundreds of rads, and they are not easily removed like they are in vanilla survival mode. I'll talk about radiation a little later though. First, I'll recommend that you replace Frost's ugly weathers with Polluted Climate Winter Edition, which accomplishes the same task of limiting visibility but with much more pleasant looking weathers. I didn't switch to Polluted Climate until late in my playthrough, but my experience was greatly improved from then on. Don't forget the no snow under the roof patch. You sure as hell don't want to see snow flying straight through buildings. You don't need a frost patch for weather mods anymore as far as I can tell, since the spell effect that used to add atmospheric radiation does nothing. Atmospheric radiation is added some other way now in the latest versions. So just use Polluted Climate Winter Edition and the no snow under the roof patch. That's enough about weather. I'll talk about radiation next, since it was my biggest concern with Frost for a long while. For most of my playtime, my health bar had more red than green in it. Until you have a gas mask, don't even think about going up to the surface because you'll get a constant dose of 5 rads per second that will kill you quickly. Even with a gas mask, the aforementioned rad storms will cause you serious pain at random intervals. Feral ghouls and glowing animals are a much bigger source of radiation damage than they are in vanilla. They emit radiation in a wide radius around them, meaning even if you manage to jank your way on top of a rock or furniture where they can't hit you, you'll need to kill them quickly to stop your rads from building up. I think this is a genius way of making Fallout 4's idiotic AI more dangerous. Radiation can no longer be removed by building decontamination arches at settlements, and Radaway is vanishingly rare. I think I found only 1 or 2 bags of Radaway in 30 hours, that's how rare it is. You can craft Radaway if you have the Chemist perk, but I didn't, and that's an Intelligence 8 perk, so you'll have to sacrifice other special points or perk points to get it. Also, the crafting requirements aren't all that easy. For most characters, Fungal Purge will be the go-to method of removing rads, but it's not exactly a breeze to craft either. It causes damage, thirst, and hunger as well. If you have very low health, it will actually kill you unless you take a dose of buff out first. Other methods of removing radiation are even less helpful. A lot of people recommend embracing alcoholism as the way to go in Frost, but actually each alcoholic beverage ingested only reduces rads by 15, so you'd have to down 67 beers to fully empty your radiation meter. If you get addicted to alcohol, which you probably will, your sanity will be reduced, which can screw you over, so I don't think the alcoholic lifestyle is actually the way to go, unless you have the Party Boy perk. Party Boy makes it more viable by increasing the positive effects of alcohol. My second biggest concern when playing Frost was Carryweight. It wasn't as bad as Wars, at least I started with 75 pounds, but that's with 7 strength. Thankfully, Strong Back still exists, and it's possible to modify your armor with pocketed attachments. There are also backpacks which increase Carryweight at the cost of agility. For those with a more nomadic playstyle who don't go around collecting junk unless it's essential, the low carry weight might not be a huge problem, but I wanted to set up bases for myself using the settlement system and heavily modify my weapons, so increasing carry weight was a must. That leads me to Frost's most helpful addition, the Scrap Kit, which converts all the junk items in your inventory into much lighter crafting components when used. Bringing one of these along is a smart idea when going out scavenging. It lets you haul significantly more junk back to base. So while carry weight was rough at the beginning, by the time I was 10 hours in, I had moved on to other worries. I suppose that is a bit of a problem. Frost has a bad case of inverted difficulty curve. It started out so punishingly hard I could barely believe it, but once I found a gas mask, escaped the subway lines underneath Boston, made it to the northwest corner of the map, cleared out Sanctuary, Red Rocket, and Abernathy Farm, which is renamed because the Abernathys don't exist yet, things got a hell of a lot easier. Before too long, I could safely traverse large swaths of the Commonwealth, hunting mutant deer with a blade and not worrying much about dying. Of course, Frost is never a total cakewalk because exploring new areas always comes with risk, no matter how well prepared you think you are. Combat is extremely fast and difficult. The entire world is unleveled and there's no health increase for leveling up. There's no damage sponges in Frost, especially not you. It's easy to make one tiny mistake and die in a second, regardless of what your health is. A lot of my deaths came not from enemies, but from traps, particularly mines placed on the ground. In vanilla, you usually have more than enough time to sprint away from a mine before it detonates, but in Frost, once you hear the beep, you're already dead. To compensate for this, there's a mine detector item, but it requires charges to function, and most of the time I didn't have any charges. Often I forgot to turn off the detector while in safe areas and wasted it. I guess that's a skill issue on my part. Thankfully, higher ranks of the Duck and Cover perk make you not set off mines, so that's a valuable investment for high-level characters. In the player's hands, mines and bear traps can be very useful. They're excellent for making a quick getaway or stopping enemies before they get within melee range. Other weapons are not as useful as before. It's hard for me to imagine heavy weapons being viable due to carry weight limitations, and automatics just waste too much ammo, which is fairly scarce. Maybe with the Scrounger perk and a heavy investment in ammo crafting, an automatic weapons build would be viable, but I'm not sure. Even semi-automatics are less effective because accuracy, weapon sway, and recoil are far higher than vanilla. Regardless of whether you're careful with your shots, eventually you'll run out of ammo and have to rely on a backup melee weapon at some point. By default, Frost only has the vanilla weapons of Fallout 4 with a couple uniques and a few new throwables, which is a little disappointing. If you're planning on doing a playthrough of your own, I'd look for Frost patches of weapon mods you're interested in. Frost doesn't have a weapon degradation or ammo type system, so you could probably get away with adding some unpatched weapons, but you might not encounter them in leveled lists very often, if at all. As for those new throwables, I found them quite useful as early game frag grenade alternatives. Everyone's old nemesis, the Molotov cocktail, has been changed too. Instead of being insanely powerful impact grenades like they are in vanilla, Frost's Molotov cocktails do very little initial damage but have a massive damage over time effect, which makes infinitely more sense for a flame weapon. They're still insanely powerful, but now you have a chance to spam healing items and recover if you get hit by one. Hunger and thirst seem to deplete faster than regular survival mode. My character focused on hunting to satiate themselves, but I can easily see a cannibal build being viable, or maybe farming could work if you manage to get some settlers. Access to water was easy for me because I built water pumps at every settlement I controlled and periodically collected purified water from their workshops. I think water pumps are only supposed to provide dirty water, but for some reason, maybe it's an oversight, they gave me purified water instead. I'm not complaining because that really helped me in the early game. One annoying problem I had is boiling water to make it safe to drink requires 3 dirty water, but you only get 1 boiled water back. Fair enough, but the other 2 bottles you use disappear, so you have to keep finding empty bottles. I'd recommend downloading the Bottleback add-on so you don't lose any bottles, because it's very annoying having to find more empties. The Lead Belly perk still removes radiation from food and water, so I imagine eating and drinking whatever irradiated garbage you can find could be a viable playstyle too. Of course, that might give you diseases, and diseases are a real pain in the ass in Frost. Instead of every disease being cured by antibiotics, antibiotics now only cure infections. Other diseases have their own cures. For example, Quantum Stew is used to cure lethargy, Fungal Purge can cure parasites, and so on. A new, ultra-rare item called Cure X can cure every disease, but I never found one. Doctors can also cure diseases, but I only ever encountered one, and their prices are stiff. Early game, you might not have enough caps to use a doctor's services even if you do find one. The end result of all this is you're going to be constantly afflicted by many diseases no matter how careful you are. Fatigue was the worst disease for me, since I don't think it has a specific cure, and it forced me to sleep all the time until I found a doctor to get it fixed. A typical session of Frost for me involved slowly scoping out a new area and either killing whatever was there or noping away from it. If I did manage to clear the place, I tried to loot as much as possible, find a bed to save in, and repeat that until I was at carrying capacity. Then I returned to base as close to the carryweight limit as possible. In between POIs, I looked for radstags to hunt. Luckily, Fallout 4's radstag AI is totally brain dead. If real deer were this stupid, they would have gone extinct a long time ago. They can deliver quite a kick sometimes, though. Frost is generally a very lonely experience. The only companion I managed to find on my travels was the Vault Tech representative at Sanctuary Hills. I really wish I had taken better care of him because he didn't survive long. I should have kept him at Red Rocket and maybe tried to turn him into a settler. Getting regular settlers requires having 10 charisma, which is the new requirement for building a recruitment beacon. It might also still be possible to build automatrons, but I wasn't able to test that. This mod really refines Fallout 4's kill, loot, return gameplay loop, and good thing too because there's no supporting story elements anymore, it's all about the survival mechanics. If those weren't finely tuned, there wouldn't be much to this mod for me. If you play long enough, you'll learn strategies for dealing with each enemy type you encounter. The most effective strategies tend to be using stealth to avoid combat entirely, or running away the second you're spotted. Dogs and wolves specialize in crippling your limbs, but are otherwise not particularly dangerous. I tried to carry around at least 1 leg brace and doctor's bag at all times, because unlike vanilla survival, stim packs do nothing to heal crippled limbs. You need sleep or special healing items to get the job done. Feral ghouls act kind of like zombies, tanking damage and regenerating health like crazy, but they're extremely weak to headshots. This is a problem because it's very difficult to target and hit their heads with melee weapons. No matter how long I played, I never got the hang of it, so I usually tried to kill ferals with my rifle before they could get close or avoid them altogether. Luckily, ghouls are still blind as bats, so even with low agility and no sneak perks, slipping past them is often possible. The best way to deal with ghouls is a good shotgun blast, because as long as 1 or 2 pellets hit their heads, they'll die, but I never found enough shotgun shells to justify carrying one around. Explosives are also a good option, since a ghoul with crippled legs is completely harmless. Super mutants aren't in Frost, which shows the mod's dedication to Fallout lore, even if it's not the best decision for gameplay, since super mutants make great enemies. Most locations that house super mutants are now home to cannibals or feral ghouls. Mirelurks are also nowhere to be found. Only their tiny offspring are in Frost. I guess the big ones haven't evolved yet. Radroaches also tend to be a lot smaller than they are in vanilla, and they're still called cockroaches. Bears are basically Yaoguai, but not yet completely mutated into their final form. I don't know how they've been changed, I was never brave enough to fight any. Human enemies are very dangerous because they often wield firearms that can end your life in 1 or 2 shots from a distance, and when they run out of ammo, because yes, NPCs use ammo in Frost, they always seem to have a backup melee weapon. It's incredibly important to learn how to time your blocks. If you don't get the timing down right, you'll die over and over again to melee enemies. Perhaps the worst part about killing humans is that it reduces your sanity. I went insane several times over the course of my playthrough because I killed too many people who were trying to kill me first. Thankfully, it's always possible to get back to a sane state by eating good food. Going insane makes it basically impossible to use guns because it ruins your accuracy. I wanted to mainly use rifles, so I was not putting up with that. For a melee build, insanity might not be as much of a problem aside from the hallucinations that will occasionally distract and attack you. I never saw any because I didn't stay insane long enough for them to appear. Interestingly, these hallucinations replace the legendary system, so there are no legendary weapons or armors to be found in Frost. Sometimes you can avoid aggravating humans by not getting close to them, but in cramped tunnels that's often impossible by design. The Intimidation perk could be another way of bloodlessly dealing with human enemies. It's useless in vanilla, but Frost could grant it new life, just like Leadbelly. The way perks are handled overall impresses me. There's a surprising amount of possible build variety. Obviously, I only had time to make one character, but I was constantly thinking about strategies I could have used if I had made different special choices at the beginning, or different perk choices later on. Leveling happens at a very slow pace, and there are so many useful perks, I always found it tough to make a selection. I was constantly suffering from multiple problems, and I just had to prioritize what I thought was most important at the time. When I was suffering from Carryweight issues, I picked Strong Back. When I was irradiated to hell, I picked Leadbelly. When I found my stabs weren't doing enough damage, I picked Big Leagues. I was very reactive because I really didn't want to waste any of my perk points. Many vanilla perks have been completely replaced, like Aqua Boy, which is now called Hunter and allows you to harvest meat and hides from animals. Attack Dog now helps you fight dogs instead of boosting the non-existent dog meat's abilities. The Lone Wanderer perk is perhaps most radically changed because it removes access to the workshop mechanic entirely, forcing you to live a nomadic lifestyle, but it provides huge benefits to compensate. I didn't go down this route. I figured it would be smarter to stick with the devil I know in the workshop. But it's possible to do a lot without having a permanent home. With a survival kit, you can craft items on the move, and it's possible to carry around a deployable sleeping bag and other camping items. I didn't encounter any serious bugs during my time in Frost, but there were some minor annoyances. It can take a very long time for enemies to give up their search for you because stealth points regenerate more slowly. And this prevented me from using a workbench more than once. It's not a big deal since this is already kind of a problem in vanilla. A bigger issue I ran into is if you're using classic holstered weapons, you need to be careful because there's a torch weapon that instantly crashes the game whenever an NPC has it on their back, unless you specifically exclude it from being handled by classic holstered weapons. Thankfully, this is easily done by editing CHW's ini file. But that's all I have to say about Frost. It's an astounding total conversion for Fallout 4, and I've enjoyed playing it so far, aside from radiation being a little too harsh. My advice for using Frost would be to find out which mechanics, if any, are too difficult for your tastes and tone them down using Game Configuration Menu, Survival Configuration Menu, or some other mod. And of course, replace Frost's weather with Polluted Climate, Winter Edition, or NACX if you prefer, and grab whatever patched weapon mods you want. There are dozens of them. And that's it, folks. I hope my piece of shit GPU doesn't give me any more trouble because for the past week I haven't been able to play Fallout 4 for more than an hour at a time without the frame rate tanking to the single digits for no reason. If this keeps up, I'm going to have to become a Morrowind channel. Toodles, everybody.